Work from home revolution. People of the world, welcome to Send It Rising, episode 370. Today we are talking about Google's egregious and ridiculous spend on office space. I need some tea. Okay, I feel a little bit better. How dare they? Manhattan, San Jose, the UK, they are building office space around the globe, and they could care less about all of the employees that are saying, you know what, we would rather work from home. I've got 3 different articles we're going to cover here today about this egregious spend, starting off in Manhattan, where the real estate is super cheap. This from NewYorkTimes.com. The technology giant has built a sprawling campus on the west side of Manhattan and has 12,000 employees in the city. Google announced on Tuesday that it would spend $2.1 billion to buy a sprawling Manhattan office building on the Hudson River waterfront, paying one of the largest prices in recent years for an office building in the United States and providing a jolt of optimism to a real estate industry lashed by the pandemic. This, to me, is such an incredible sign that companies like this are now officially, as if they weren't before, out of touch. They're out of touch. They do not understand that this kind of investment is running the exact opposite way of the trend. Now, I'm not saying that this building won't increase in value over time. There is an investment conversation we can have about whether or not this is going to be incredible land and they can turn it into this and that in the future. That's fine. But the fact that $2.1 billion is being funneled into something that the employees don't want is the most shocking part of this to me. The transaction, according to the article, comes during a precarious period for New York City's office market, the largest in the country, as the swift embrace of remote work and the shedding of office space have presented the most serious threat to the industry in decades. Yes, the writing is clearly on the wall in regards to office space, and yet there they go, building in Manhattan. I'm going to say no. I don't think so. Bad move. Well, if that wasn't enough, they're building a multi-billion-dollar mega campus in San Jose, according to CNBC.com. What's interesting to me is when you work at a place like this, obviously, hey, here's your free massage, here's your free lunch, here's your free, gourmet dinner. It's just royalty doing what royalty does. We've learned as a human race that it's just something we do as people. When we have so much money, we just treat ourselves like kings and queens, and those are gone pretty much, with the rare exception. But we still behave this way. We just call it billionaires and people that work for billionaires. The San Jose City Council, according to CNBC.com, has approved Google's big plans for a mega campus that's been in the works for the last 4 years. Construction may begin as soon as next year. It's going to take around a decade to fully build. It's Google's first mixed-use campus and aims to be a model for other tech campuses as soaring real estate prices drive growing alienation towards tech companies. Exactly. So, we've got these people living in these little heaven bubbles, right, of these tech billionaires and these little umbrellas they can create for their people and for their staff, and it just creates such an obvious have and have-nots dynamic. I'm not saying we shouldn't have these beautiful places on the planet. What I am saying is we're paying for the campus. This is the point I'm making. When I have a small business coming to me saying, I'm not sure I can keep my doors open, I need to drive revenue to my business, and I say, well, we can talk about Google ads, and they go, too expensive. They say, we tried it, the revenue isn't there. Do you see what I'm saying? So obviously the top performers, like the top 10, let's say, here's a good example. You're a real estate agent and you work in Las Vegas. You've got a $5,000 disposable ads budget. That's fine. You can spend the time and invest the money. This is the way capitalism has always and will always operate. Once you've established yourself, you have such an edge over your competition that methods like this will get you there. So Google is making their money to create this heaven-like experience on planet Earth off the backs of many small businesses who can't quite afford or can barely afford it. They're barely making it. They're slowly growing, this sort of thing. And so to me, Google ads are sort of like a tax, because good try good luck creating an entrepreneurial endeavor where you are not using Google ads. It's very tricky to do, to grow organically in that way. And SEO, whole nother conversation. I talk to you for hours about how difficult it is nowadays, 2022, to fight against all of these established companies. It's one of the reasons why we are now starting to get leads. Send It Rising being 6 years old. I've known SEO my whole life, but it takes a long time, many episodes of a show, many quality links back to the website to even begin the process of getting leads. And so, yes, for downtown West, Google is going to develop 80 acres of land in downtown San Jose. Think about just a dollar figure attached to that. 7.3 million square feet of office space for 20,000 workers and thousands of housing units. It's Google's first mixed-use campus and will be one of its largest when completed. Now, I'm happy for the people at Google, don't get me wrong. I'm happy if you're in the elite, the 1% of the 1%, and this happens to be the way you live your life. I also like the idea of them not commuting, but this notion that giant tech companies are forcing folks back into an office when they have the kind of job that does not require that they go to an office. This is the most frustrating part. The number of cars on the road, the amount of carbon emissions that go into our atmosphere is directly correlated to the decisions of these major companies, because what's happening is you've got your residential property that's generating its own carbon emissions, and then you have the urban commercial space that's generating its own carbon emissions. And when you don't need to have both, it's ridiculous. And then you're having people going back and forth to them habitually. They're not setting the right tone. What they could be saying is, look, we're going to pay everyone more so that you can buy nicer homes. You can have this sort of thing in your house. Here's a solar power stipend. Wouldn't that be amazing if they took this money and they said, you know what we're going to do, instead of creating this campus, try to create heaven on earth, which all these billionaires do it all the time. And it's not heaven for everybody, mind you. It's heaven for them and their people. And they, instead of going, you know what, I'm gonna let you create your little heaven on your own. So here's your money, but also create solar panels for your, here's a stipend for an electric car. Here's a stipend for something to fix up your house. Make your house better, right? And work from home. They could be leading the charge on this. They simply are not. And it drives me absolutely crazy. Back to the article, the approval comes as Google aims to model a shift away from closed-off tech campuses to stem the growing alienation towards tech companies whose success has contributed to a shortage of affordable housing and big cultural shifts in Silicon Valley. Google, which is doubling down on bringing workers back to offices amid the weakening pandemic, nope, is also planning another massive town-like hub just 10 miles up the road. So perhaps they're trying to get other people into this space, so it's not going to be this sort of private thing. Quote, there's tremendous mistrust of the government and suspicion of big tech, and it could have been easy for many of our community members simply to succumb to slogans and simplistic thinking, but thousands rolled up their sleeves. San Jose mayor, well, of course, the mayor of San Jose is a huge fan of this. Are you kidding? What an investment. Quote, rather than jump in one camp or another, community members pushed and prodded and urged the city and Google to stretch and reach higher. So Google and parent company Alphabet's finance chief Ruth Porat and SVP Kent Walker, who he said are committed to seeing this through. So my main question here for this downtown West campus is it going to be open to the public? A campus does not kind of, they say they're going to include 300 hotel rooms and 800 residences. So maybe it just is Disneyland. Maybe this is just their way to create Disneyland, because campus, I don't know, doesn't say public to me. Downtown West's approval comes after 4 years of planning, adjusting, and earning buy-in from community and housing advocates after facing early and intense pushback for displacement concerns, according to the article. Within 1 week of the news breaking in 2017, home prices in a 3-mile radius of the site jumped 7%, just on the news itself. Absolutely wild. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this, but at the end of the day, it's just, so here we go. So not including office space, Google's going to pay more than $1 billion for infrastructure features such as parks, walkways, and preservation of historic sites. It's also going to pay approximately $265.8 million in land and infrastructure fees, as well as $200 million in community benefits, which include anti-displacement and job readiness programs. Hoofda. So it's possible that they're just investing in the community. This is going to be open to everyone, and they're attempting to basically make Disneyland. If that's the case, and they are reducing the number of cars on the road, people are closer to it, then okay. then okay, maybe I'll give them a pass. But I'm going to keep my eye on you, Google. Last but not least, Google is spending $1 billion on its offices. Didn't it get the remote work memo? This is UK, the United Kingdom, obviously. ZDNet.com, working preferences may be evolving, but that hasn't stopped Google from placing a bold and expensive vote of confidence in a return to office life. Earlier this month, Google announced it will spend a cool 730 million euros, that's $1 billion, on its office space in central London. So it's such a conflicting message, these different campuses. I'm so confused. When we're talking about office space, is it private, is it public? The tech giant also expects its headcount to increase from 6,400 to 10,000, with Google UK boss Ronan Harris telling the BBC that the company is keen to see a return to office life and people behind desks. Who wants to go? Do you want to go back behind a desk? If you had the opportunity to work from home, like I do, wouldn't you want to stay here? I don't get it. People are going to die commuting back and forth to their jobs. Okay, who's responsible for that? The person. But really, are they? When they could have done that job from home? Ridiculous. Back to the article. Predictably, Google's office shopping spree has raised eyebrows for some. Quote, Google's major investment in London real estate might demonstrate a show of confidence in a return to office working, which is ridiculous. But the confidence is ill-founded and short-sighted, according to Callum Adamson. Well, my name's Kellen. His name's Callum, so maybe we're good. CEO and co-founder of software company Distributed, who argues Google investment makes a further attempt to buy big business and big tech to rush back to in-person work under the guise of hybrid working. Exactly. I mean, it may be incredibly difficult for companies like Google to do remote work for reasons I don't comprehend, but as the owner of a digital marketing company, it is entirely possible, from my perspective, to make this work. Forcing people back is truly ridiculous, but that's just my 2 cents. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Leave a comment below. You know I love to hear from you. If there's anything I can do to make your life easier, Kellen, K-E-L-L-E-N, at senditrising.com would be how you reach out to me. And leave a comment, youtube.com/senditrising. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify after the fact, thank you so much. I genuinely do appreciate it. And that is the show for today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time.